It's time for Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Realty Executives Preferred Advisors.
Good Sunday morning to you. This is Carrie Brown, broker-owner of Realty Executives Preferred Advisors, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. I'm really excited to have Dana Branam here today. She is the Director of Consumer Affairs for the Kansas office of the State Bank Commissioners. If that isn't a mouthful, I know your receptionist says she's got to have like a really good role with this. That's a long introduction.
It really is.
Wow. So just means that she's very important. So Dana, let's talk about what is the mission of the Kansas office of the State Bank Commissioners?
So the mission is also a mouthful, but it's really an all-encompassing statement of what we do. We ensure the integrity of regulated providers of financial services through responsible and proactive oversight while protecting and educating consumers.
So what would be considered the daily functions of this office?
So there are two different divisions within our office. We have the Division of Consumer and Mortgage Lending. This is the division that is has oversight of the Kansas Mortgage Business Act and the Uniform Consumer Credit Code. Kansas Mortgage Business Act would encompass residential mortgage lenders, brokers, servicers, and individual loan originators. And the Uniform Consumer Credit Code encompasses our supervised lender license, which is finance companies and small dollar lenders and debt buyers. Also within the Uniform Consumer Credit Code would be our notification registrants. These are companies that extend credit to consumers. For example, car dealers or dental offices or furniture sales. Those are just a few examples. Many types of companies do extend credit. The Credit Services Organization Act would have our debt management companies. And our banking division, they are charged with the oversight of our banking code and our Money Transmitter Act. So that would be our state chartered banks and trust companies and also money transmitters. An example of money transmitters would be Western Union or MoneyGram, but there are several of those as well.
You mentioned that you guys investigate complaints from the general public. How many of those do you get a year?
Last year, in 2016, our office responded to over 1,300 informal inquiries and also another 217 formal inquiries where we conducted an investigation into a consumer's specific concerns.
And what does that process look like?
So for a formal inquiry assistance process, the consumer would file a consumer assistance form with our office. Those are available both on our website or by mail. And then that just gives us a little bit of information about the consumer, about the company, and the situation. And then we contact the company for an explanation, and then we work with the consumer and the company to achieve a resolution.
So like a mediator, basically.
Yes. Yeah. If we do find a violation, we can definitely require some action. But a lot of times, it really is something that's a misunderstanding between the consumer and the company. Maybe something wasn't clear. And we really do, I would just say, a very large majority of the time, we really come to a resolution and have the satisfaction of both parties.
Beyond helping consumers that have concerns, what other ways do you guys reach out to the community with consumer education?
Community awareness and education is very important to our office. So we do things like this interview to share with consumers some of the resources available and try to educate them on what to look for when they may be searching for consumer credit or loan. We also provide grants to support financial literacy programs throughout the state for both children and adults. We have several grants that go towards programs that are in our high schools. Ever5 Financial Literacy, we sponsor together with Kansas Securities Commissioner to provide that to all high schools in Kansas. We also sponsor community activities through housing and credit counseling and consumer credit counseling services. Some programs also available through Kansas Council of Economic Education and the Pando Initiative. Both of those are primarily in the schools. Something exciting that we also do is this school year, will be our 4th annual Financial Scholars Essay Scholarship Contest. This as well we co-sponsor with the Kansas Securities Commissioner. This is available to high school seniors who plan to attend a Kansas School of Higher Education. They must have participated in one of the programs that either our office or the Securities Commissioner office sponsors. Those would be EverVive Financial Literacy, the Personal Finance Challenge, the Stock Market Game, or Life Smarts. And this year's winners were awarded a first place prize of $2,500, stair step down to a fifth place prize of $500, plus 5 honorable mention scholarships of up to $250.
And where would people find more information about your class schedules or where you're speaking and things along those lines?
We do have information on our website about things that are coming up, like the scholarship contest. We also have a website called kansasmoney.gov, so that's www.kansasmoney.gov. This is another great resource that we help to provide Kansas consumers. And they have a calendar of scheduled events, not only by our office, but by all the offices involved in putting that website together. So that's a great resource to find things that are available throughout the community.
So you talk about the kansasmoney.gov. I know that you guys also speak at the Women in Money classes that Housing and Credit Counseling does. What other things are involved in the website and different things that you go out into the community and do?
So typically on our speaking engagements, we tell a little bit about our office, and so the community has some awareness of who we are and what we do. We also talk about what to look for when you may be looking for credit or financing, how to know exactly what you will be paying for the loan, not just the interest rate, but the APR. So to look and know where to find all of the fees that may be involved in that particular loan or finance agreement. We also try to always give a lot of resources, not only our office, but we do always point out that it's very important to be working with a licensed company. On our website, we have a place where consumers can look to see if a company does have the proper license. There's a consumer tab at the top of our website, which is www.osbckansas.org. Consumer tab at the top that gives lots of information available there. It tells who we license, who we don't license. On those that we don't license, we do give resources on where to go to find information about those types of companies. But it does have an online lookup where you can look up a company to actually see if they do have the appropriate license to do what they are wanting to do. And then, of course, you can always contact our office. So when we go out into the community, mainly we are trying to give information on what to look for and where to go when you need help. And we really try to stress to consumers that it's important to reach out if you do have questions about maybe a loan that you're thinking of getting, or maybe a loan that you've already gotten, whether that company is licensed or unlicensed. We can either help out or we can give you the resources to find some assistance. kansasmoney.gov is another great resource that is available. This website was designed to be a one-stop shop for financial information and resources for Kansas consumers. It has information about managing and protecting your money. And there's also a really great education component available on kansasmoney.gov. It's called Smart About Money, and it is created by the National Endowment for Financial Education. Basically, this is a flexible learning for busy adults. It's something that you can go out and use, and then you can leave the website, you can go back, you can actually create a login if you like, create a budget, and it will store that for you. It has many tools, calculators, worksheets, and common money questions. And then there's also different courses, which are in-depth learning experiences. It can take up to 45 minutes to complete these, but they do include many tools and worksheets and calculators. Some of the topics that are included are money basics. There's a course on emergency funds, a course on financial well-being, retirement, transportation. This is really a valuable education component that, like I said, consumers can go out and use on their own schedule, and it's not really tied to anything. You don't have to stick to a schedule. It's just very easy to use.
And I know we've had housing and credit counseling on several times, and unfortunately, not everyone was raised with someone that taught them how to even balance a checkbook, much less save for retirement. So this is really a great resource. And again, it's kansasmoney.gov to do some education on your own in case you weren't taught how to do those types of things. I know when we bring someone in to buy a house, we ask them about their budget because you're typically financed for more than you technically could afford, because they look at your debt to income and they say, okay, well, you have this amount of money that you could be spending, wherein you don't really factor in, well, if I have to buy a new car, what if I have to babysit? What if I have another kid? Groceries, how much do I spend? Traveling back and forth, they don't really get very granular into what your budget really looks like. So we really stress, let's work the budget backwards. So let's look at what you spend month to month, and then what can you really afford in a house payment. And so we don't want you to ever be house poor. So really education altogether. There are so many great resources, and obviously you guys do a lot of education to try and keep the consumers safe from going basically bankrupt. You want to understand how to spend your money, how to plan for retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. We stress a lot as well to plan for those unexpected expenses, and to be careful before you sign a contract that you are able to honor that contract, because that becomes very important down the road. And those unexpected expenses have to be figured into your budget, because a lot of times, although they some of them may be emergencies, some of them are just not the usual expenses, like your tags and taxes. They're not due every month, but you still have to budget them in. And so yeah, that's so important. And these are some basic skills. And then I know the credit counseling companies, HCCI and Consumer Credit Counseling Services, those are the two here in Kansas, and they do have excellent resources for also assisting consumers in working through those issues that they may have if they do get into trouble, and trying to get them out without, like you said, filing bankruptcy or something more severe.
We'll be back after a word from our sponsors, and we'll be discussing what you should do if you do have concerns about a business, how to file a complaint, information that you need to know about people that aren't properly licensed, and how to do business. So join us again after a word from our sponsors.
Southwest Topeka has a good neighbor. State Farm agent Jim Garrison, now at 29th and Urish. If your current insurance situation has you going around in circles, get off the roundabout and stop in and meet Jim and his wonderfully efficient staff. Let Jim Garrison give you a quote and make the Garrison comparison. He's confident that with State Farm's competitive rates, the right coverage, and his unmatched service, you'll want to make him your new insurance agent. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and Jim Garrison is there for you, northeast of the roundabout at 29th and Urish.
Thanks for joining us again. This is Carrie Brown, broker owner of Realty Executives Preferred Advisors, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. And I'm back with Dana Branam. Dana is the Director of Consumer Affairs for the Kansas office of the State Bank Commissioner. So, Dana, tell us if someone has a concern about, or if they want you to look into concerns of and file a complaint about someone they believe that is not either properly licensed or not doing business the way that they should, what would they do?
So the best way to do that is you can always call our office. The number to our office is 785-296-2266. Or if you'd rather go onto our website, that's www.osbckansas.org. And under the Consumer tab, you'll find a tab that says File a Complaint. That tab's going to give you some information, not just the complaint form, but it's going to give you some information on ideas that you can do first. So have you contacted the company? Have you tried to work it out? And just some questions to ask yourself. You can determine whether it's a company that we license and regulate or whether it maybe is a company licensed by another agency. But ultimately, you can file the consumer assistance form, and that asks for your information, the company's information, a scenario of what has gone on, and any type of documentation you may have. You can either submit that online or you can mail it into our office. And then we'll contact you. We'll give you a case number. We will contact the company. If the company is not someone that we license, it may be a company for example, a national bank would be regulated by the Office of the Comptroller of Currency. So if that's the case, we can send that form on to their office and they can take it from there. However, if it's a company that appears that they maybe should be licensed, we will reach out to that company and try to contact them, try to locate them and figure out why maybe they are not licensed, and we can try to work through it beginning there.
And what are some of the risks of doing business with a company that isn't properly licensed?
So doing business with a company that's not licensed in any way can be pretty risky. And there's so much online business now. And usually when we come across companies that are unlicensed, it's something that someone has got in contact through the internet. But basically, there's a higher risk of deceptive practices. For example, maybe they're not clearly disclosing the costs of the of the loan. So usually on contracts, there's actually a very bold and clear box, typically on the front page, that is going to give you the amount that you're borrowing. It will usually tell you the interest rate. It also includes the APR, or usually it tells you the total amount that you will be paying over the life of the loan. And usually that information is clearly disclosed right on the contract. So that's something that when you are comparing loans, you can look for that information and compare one loan to another. But if you're working with a company that is not properly licensed and they're maybe not doing things the way they should, that can happen. Also at a higher risk of high-pressure debt collection. Also, a lot of times these companies will be collecting and selling your information, so they'll get you to enter your information online, and then maybe that information is sold to other companies who then your information goes on those large lists that are sold, and you may get calls that you don't want to get or mailers that you don't want to get by not just the company that you contacted, but other companies as well. Basically, that can lead to fraud and identity theft and unauthorized bank withdrawals. Another risk about unlicensed businesses is that they are often very hard for us to locate. They may not, the address that they give you may not even exist. So when we go to contact that company, it can often be very difficult. They may be located outside of the United States. That also adds a different level of difficulty in contacting them. And then also, if they're not licensed with our office and not regulated, that may ultimately mean that we wouldn't have jurisdiction to take an enforcement action if there is something that would be in violation.
This makes me think of, this is kind of a consumer awareness plug, but in our industry, people will take homes that we have listed on the MLS, and they will take those. They'll steal our pictures. They'll put it on Craigslist, and then they'll put for rent. They'll have this is what your deposit will be. This is how you'll get the entrance into the property. It'll oftentimes be far less than what you would imagine. So say it's a $300,000 home, and all of a sudden the rent is $450 a month, and someone will inevitably send them a deposit, which is like 3 times what the monthly rent is, because they're thinking, oh, what a great deal. Those are, in our industry, an example of unfair or deceptive practices of just, they're everywhere. They really, truly are. And we're saying, listen, do not send money. Call us. I mean, our signs are in the yard. Call us and ask us, are they truly for rent? Most of us, if we have rentals, there's a slug there. So, this goes into all different kinds of entities. And as a consumer, you really need to be aware of what you're doing and ask questions first before you start sending money anywhere. So not the same thing, but in a way, kind of the same thing. It's, deception.
It really is. Yeah. Deception comes in all forms, and it seems much more prevalent in all areas.
Absolutely. So what are some important tips that you would give someone who is considering a loan or another type of credit?
Well, first of all, like we were just discussing, do your research. It's really important with all the deception that is so prevalent that you not only trust what you may be sent. So companies are actually contacting consumers in many different ways, whether it be in the mail, which is kind of the old style, or but today consumers are getting contacted by email, even by text, by different companies. And so these are always high alert situations. And, not to say that they're all bad, but my little tip is while you're doing your research on whether your company is a legitimate company, don't use the information provided to you by the company. Go out independently to the internet. Go to Google and Google the company. Look for whether maybe they've had a lot of consumer complaints. You can, always call our office, of course. There are consumer complaint databases, whether it's the Better Business Bureau, but enter their name out on Google or whatever search engine that you're using, and see what you find, and then go to their website and check out the address. You can even enter the address in a search engine and make sure that it actually exists, and call the phone number that they have. Make sure it goes to the company. Make sure you feel comfortable talking to the company. Beyond that, once you decide that you maybe have a reputable company that you're working with, also evaluate your options. So you have this option of what one company tells you that they can give you. So take a look around. See what other companies have to offer as well. And make sure you're comparing the same information. So, for example, on a loan, if you don't just simply compare the interest rate, because that often does not include the fees. So look, maybe a better place to look is the APR. So that usually includes all of the fees that are involved. And so that's kind of comparing apples to apples rather than apples to oranges. So evaluate your options. Ask questions. Make sure everything on the contract, everything that you may be being told verbally is in writing. Make sure you're clear on everything about your loan or about the credit. And ask for help. Go to those resources that we've talked about. Call our office. We can refer you on if necessary. Several state offices. There's the Attorney General's office. There's so many resources. And then don't sign a contract until you're absolutely sure of all of those things. You need to be sure that the company's properly licensed and you know how to contact them, not just that email address that you're talking to before the loan, but know who to contact after you have gotten that loan. Make sure your terms are disclosed clearly and they match what you've been told verbally. So just because you're told something over the phone, make sure that that's what is on your contract, and make sure you know how much you're paying for the credit that is being extended. Make sure that you can meet those terms. So it's very important, like we were talking about earlier, to consult back to your budget. Know that you can actually make that payment each month. And then also important is to know what happens if you can't make that payment. So there are unexpected things that come up, and that's just a fact of life. And if for some reason you are unable to make a monthly payment, understand what that means. Understand the fees that are going to be applied then to your loan, or understand how that's going to affect the interest going forward. Because different loans have different ways of being figured. So if you're 1 day late, it may affect the interest going forward. Another tip that I think is really important is don't borrow more than you need. Like you said, you may qualify for a lot more than what you need, but it's not always the right thing to do to borrow that higher amount. Just borrow what you need.
Absolutely. You don't want to be eating boxed macaroni for the next 30 years because you can't make your house payment if you have STIGs. So an important message would be there are many resources for education and assistance. So reach out and be informed. And always, let's give them one more time how to get a hold of you.
Our phone number is 785-296-2266. We also have a toll-free number, which is 877-387-8523. Our website is www.osbckansas.org and/or kansasmoney.gov.
And if you're looking to buy or sell a house, be sure and give us a call at 785-213-5188. You can email us at preferredadvisorsteam@gmail.com. And you can check out our website, which includes clear up to the Nebraska border practically, Missouri border, and down to the Emporia area, and all the way west to Junction City. And that is www.nekansashomes.com. Thanks for listening to Real Estate 101.
Thank you for listening to Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Realty Executives Preferred Advisors. Tune in again next Sunday at 11 o'clock for Real Estate 101.